I stood in the doorway of room 407, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. The scent of roses filled the air, thick and sweet. Champagne sat in an ice bucket on the counter, already sweating through the cloth napkin wrapped around it. Candles flickered on every surface, casting dancing shadows across the walls. A note on hotel stationery sat beside the champagne. I picked it up with trembling fingers and read, "For another unforgettable night. Can't wait to celebrate with you again. See." My phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out and saw Colin's name on the screen. "Heading up now. You're going to love your surprise, Em. Happy early birthday to us, Red Heart." He had no idea I was already here. He didn't know I'd found this exact room on his credit card statement a week ago. In my other hand, I held a small black velvet box. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with words that still made my stomach turn, "To my favorite secret." I'd found it hidden in his briefcase 3 days ago. My name is Emily Harvey, and I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who goes through her husband's things. But life has a funny way of turning you into someone you don't recognize. It started with small things, late nights at the office, new cologne I didn't buy him, sudden interest in going to the gym. I told myself I was being paranoid. Colin and I had been married for 6 years. We'd built a life together, bought a house, talked about having kids someday. But then I found the receipt. It was tucked into the pocket of his navy suit, the one I'd picked up from the dry cleaners last Tuesday. The Hensley Hotel. Room 407. Check-in Thursday at 8 p.m., check-out Friday at 11 a.m. When I asked him about it, Colin barely looked up from his phone. Client meeting ran late, so I crashed there instead of driving home tired. "You worry too much, Em." His tone was casual, almost dismissive. Something in my chest tightened. That was the moment I stopped trusting my husband. I decided to mention it at dinner with his family that Friday night. Not the receipt exactly, just a casual question about his work schedule. "Colin's been working so many late nights lately," I said, cutting into my chicken. "I barely see him anymore." His mother, Patricia, set down her wine glass with a sharp click. "Men work hard to provide, Emily. You should be grateful Colin is so dedicated to his career." His sister, Brenda, smirked across the table. "Maybe if you made more effort at home, he wouldn't need to stay at the office so late." The words hit me like a slap. Colin said nothing, just reached for the bread basket. Under the table, I dug my nails into my palms until they left marks. I smiled sweetly and changed the subject. But that night, lying in bed while Colin snored beside me, I made a decision. I pulled out my phone and started taking screenshots of every bank statement, every credit card charge, every receipt I could find. If something was happening, I needed proof. 3 nights later, Colin called me from another late meeting. His voice echoed slightly, like he was in a large space. I could hear music in the background, soft and jazzy. Then I heard it, a woman's laugh, light and familiar, followed by the distinct sound of a hotel television switching channels. "Where are you exactly?" I asked, keeping my voice neutral. "At the conference center downtown. Big client presentation." He sounded irritated that I'd asked. "That's just the bartender laughing, Em. And yes, they have TVs here. You're imagining things again." He sighed like I was exhausting him. "I'll be home soon. Don't wait up." The call ended before I could respond. I sat there in our living room, phone still pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. Then I opened the voice recorder app and realized I'd been recording. I saved the file to a hidden folder I'd created that morning. I labeled it Truth. The next breakthrough came when I was doing laundry on Sunday morning. Colin had left early for what he called a golf game with the guys. I was sorting through his pants pockets, checking for tissues or forgotten receipts, when my fingers brushed against something folded small and tight. I pulled it out and unfolded it carefully. Another receipt from the Hensley Hotel. This one was different. It showed a minibar charge, 2 glasses of champagne, chocolate-covered strawberries, late-night room service. The date was from 2 weeks ago, a Thursday night when he'd told me he was at a business dinner. Room 407. The same room. My hand started shaking, but not from sadness. I was angry. Furious. But more than that, I was determined. I took a photo of the receipt, front and back, making sure every detail was visible. Then I folded it exactly as I'd found it and put it back in his pocket. He'd never know I'd seen it. On Tuesday afternoon, while Colin was at work, I decided to search his briefcase. It felt wrong, invasive, but I couldn't stop myself. The briefcase sat in his home office, a leather bag he'd gotten as a promotion gift 3 years ago. I unzipped it slowly, my heart racing. Inside were the usual things, files, pens, his tablet. Then I saw a folder labeled Q4 Projections. I opened it. Behind the spreadsheets and financial reports, tucked into a side pocket I almost missed, was a small black velvet box. My breath caught. For a second, I thought maybe this was for me, maybe I'd been wrong about everything. I opened it. A silver bracelet lay nestled in white satin. Delicate, expensive, beautiful. I lifted it to read the engraving on the inside, "To my favorite secret." The room tilted. I sat down hard in his desk chair, still holding the box. This wasn't for me. This was never meant for me. I stared at it for what felt like hours but was probably only minutes. Then I took photos from every angle, closed the box, and put it back exactly where I'd found it. That night, I confronted him. Colin was watching television, a beer in his hand, completely relaxed. I sat down beside him and took a breath. "I found something today," I said quietly. "In your briefcase." He muted the TV and turned to me, his expression shifting to confusion. "What are you talking about?" "A bracelet. With an engraving." I watched his face carefully. For just a second, something flickered in his eyes. Fear, maybe. Then it was gone, replaced by laughter. Seriously? That's for you. It's an early anniversary gift." He shook his head like I was being ridiculous. "Why would I buy jewelry for anyone else?" "You're being paranoid again." He stood up, kissed the top of my head, and walked to the kitchen. "This is getting old, Emily. You need to trust me." I sat there alone, the TV still muted. But before he'd come back, I'd already texted myself a photo of that bracelet. Just in case he tried to make it disappear. I decided to stop confronting him. Instead, I started acting normal again, maybe even better than normal. I cooked his favorite meals, laughed at his jokes, asked about his day with genuine interest. Colin relaxed. The tension that had been building between us seemed to melt away. "See," he said one night, pulling me close on the couch. "I told you there was nothing to worry about. We're good, Em. We're solid." I smiled and nodded, resting my head on his shoulder. Inside, my mind was racing. I'd spent the past 3 days organizing everything I'd found into a timeline. Receipts, bank statements, phone records I'd managed to access through our shared account. Every piece of evidence was cataloged and backed up in 3 different places: my phone, a cloud drive, and a USB stick hidden in my car. The folder on my phone was labeled Truth, but I was starting to think of it as something else. Justice. The breakthrough came at Sunday brunch with Colin's family. We were at Patricia's house, the table laden with pastries and fruit and expensive coffee. Brenda was talking about her recent vacation when she suddenly turned to Colin. "Oh, by the way, did you ever tell Emily about that hotel conference last month?" She took a bite of croissant, completely casual. "You know, the one where you said you weren't alone?" The table went silent. Patricia's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. Colin's face went red, then pale. He shot Brenda a look that could have melted steel. "What are you talking about?" "That was just a work thing." His voice was tight. Brenda shrugged, but I saw the glint in her eye. She knew something. "Oh, right. The work thing. Sorry, I must have misunderstood. I took a sip of my coffee, acting unbothered. But under the table, I was typing a note into my phone. Brenda knows. Everyone probably knows. That realization burned worse than the betrayal itself. On Monday morning, I drove to the Hensley Hotel. My hands were sweaty on the steering wheel, but my resolve was solid. I walked into the lobby, all marble floors and gold fixtures, and approached the front desk. A young woman with a name tag reading Melissa greeted me with a professional smile. I think I lost a necklace here last week, I said, keeping my voice apologetic. It has sentimental value. Could you check if it was turned in? I was in room 407. Melissa's face brightened with recognition. Oh, you're with Mr. Harvey? He always books that room. Let me check our lost and found. She typed something into her computer. My heart hammered. Actually, I said carefully, I'm Mrs. Harvey. Colin's wife. Melissa's fingers froze on the keyboard. The color drained from her face. I'll check on that necklace, she stammered. While she disappeared into the back office, I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the computer screen, which showed Colin's reservation history. Room 407, booked 6 times in the past 3 months. Always on Thursday nights. Back in my car, I cross-referenced the reservation dates with Colin's calendar. Every Thursday he'd booked that room matched a night he'd said he was working late or at a business dinner. Then I checked our credit card statements again, looking for any other pattern. That's when I found her name. Vanessa Chen had been charged to our card 3 times, dinners at expensive restaurants, always on those same Thursday nights. I pulled up Colin's company website and found her in the staff directory. Vanessa Chen, marketing director. Her photo showed a woman in her early 30s, with dark hair and a confident smile. I clicked through to her LinkedIn profile. There it was, a photo from a company event 6 months ago. Colin stood beside her, his arm casually draped across her shoulders. She wore a perfume I recognized. I'd bought it last Christmas, told Colin I loved it. He'd said he didn't like that scent on me. Now I knew why. It reminded him of her. 2 weeks later, Colin came home with an announcement. I've been thinking, he said, setting his briefcase down by the door. Our anniversary is coming up, and I want to do something special. He pulled me into a hug. How about I book us a hotel for the weekend? Just you and me, no distractions. We can reconnect, remember why we fell in love. My heart raced, but I kept my voice steady. That sounds wonderful. I'll take care of everything, he promised. It'll be a surprise. Trust me, you're going to love it. After he went upstairs to change, I stood in the kitchen gripping the counter. I knew exactly which hotel he'd choose. I knew exactly which room. This was it. This was my chance. The next morning, while Colin was at work, I called the Hensley Hotel. I'd like to book room 407, I said. When is it available? The receptionist checked. We have it open Thursday and Friday of next week. I'll take Thursday night, I said. Under Emily Harvey. And just to confirm, she added, we do have a Colin Harvey with a reservation for Friday night in the same room. Perfect, I said, my voice calm. That's my husband. We're celebrating. Thursday morning arrived cold and gray. Colin left for work early, kissing me goodbye like he always did. See you tonight, Em. Don't forget we're having dinner at my mom's. I won't forget, I promised. But I had no intention of going to dinner. As soon as his car pulled out of the driveway, I grabbed the bag I'd packed the night before. Inside were the printed receipts, the photos I'd taken, the bracelet I'd carefully removed from his briefcase, and a small camera I'd ordered online. I also packed an overnight bag with clothes and toiletries, like I was really preparing for a romantic getaway. At the Hensley Hotel, Melissa looked uncomfortable when she saw me. Mrs. Harvey. Your room is ready. Thank you, I said, taking the key card for room 407. Upstairs, I got to work. I set up the camera in a corner where it wouldn't be noticed, angled to capture the entire room. I placed the bracelet on the bed, positioned like a carefully chosen gift. Then I laid out the receipts on the desk, organized by date. Finally, I connected my laptop to the television and prepared a slideshow. Every photo, every bank statement, every piece of evidence I'd collected, ready to play at the touch of a button. I ordered room service, a salad I barely touched, and waited. The hours crawled by. I took a shower, changed into a simple black dress, and sat by the window watching the city lights flicker on as the sun set. My phone buzzed constantly. Colin, asking where I was. Patricia, annoyed that I'd missed dinner. Brenda, with a snarky message about me being too sensitive to show up for family events. I ignored them all. At 8:47 p.m., I heard footsteps in the hallway. They stopped outside the door. The key card beeped, and the door handle turned. Colin walked in, his arms full of roses, a bottle of champagne in one hand. He was dressed nicely, his hair freshly styled. He looked happy, excited even. Then he saw me standing by the window, and his face went blank with confusion. Emily? He lowered the flowers slowly. What the hell are you doing here? You thought you'd booked this room for tomorrow night with Vanessa, I finished for him. But I got here first. His face went through a series of expressions: shock, fear, anger, calculation. I don't know what you're talking about, he said, but his voice shook. This is our anniversary surprise. For us. I stepped aside, revealing the bracelet on the bed. His eyes locked onto it, and I watched the blood drain from his face. Sit down, Colin, I said quietly. My voice was steady, calm. I'd practiced this moment in my head 100 times. He didn't move. Emily, listen, sit down. This time my voice was harder. He sat on the edge of the bed, still holding the roses. They looked ridiculous now, wilting slightly in his grip. I walked to the laptop and pressed play. The television screen lit up behind me. The first image was the receipt from 3 months ago. Room 407. Then another. And another. 6 reservations, all on Thursday nights. All charged to our shared credit card. Colin's mouth opened, then closed. I'm not finished, I interrupted. The next slide showed his text messages to Vanessa. I'd gotten them through our phone company's online portal, where I'd reset the password 3 days ago. Can't wait to see you Thursday. Room 407. Counting down the hours. Last night was incredible. You're incredible. Then came the photos. Colin and Vanessa at dinner. Colin and Vanessa at a company event, his hand on the small of her back. And finally, security footage I'd requested from the hotel, showing Colin and Vanessa entering room 407 together, for different times. I'd paid Melissa $200 for that footage. Money well spent. Colin stood up, the roses falling to the floor. Where did you get all this? You've been spying on me? Protecting myself, I corrected. There's a difference. Emily, please, just let me explain, he stepped toward me. Don't. I held up my hand. Don't you dare try to explain this away. Don't tell me it meant nothing. Don't say you were confused or it was a mistake. I've heard you lie for months, Colin. I'm done listening. He ran his hands through his hair, a gesture I used to find endearing. Now it just looked desperate. It was a mistake, he said anyway. Vanessa and it happened. But it's over now. It's been over for weeks. I was going to tell you. I laughed, and the sound was bitter even to my own ears. You were going to tell me? When? Before or after you celebrated our anniversary in the same room where you've been sleeping with her? He had no answer for that. I love you, he tried. We can fix this. Marriage counseling, whatever you want. Please, Em. Don't throw away 6 years. I picked up my purse. You already did. I walked toward the door. The divorce papers will be filed Monday morning. Don't come home tonight. I've changed the locks. I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to my best friend Nicole's apartment across town. She took one look at my face and pulled me inside without a word. Over wine and takeout, I told her everything. Nicole had never liked Colin, had warned me about his charm and his tendency to always be right. Now she just held my hand and let me talk. What happens next? She asked finally. I blow up his world, I said simply. He blew up mine. Fair is fair. Saturday morning, I woke up on Nicole's couch with a plan fully formed. Colin's birthday party was tomorrow night at his mother's house. The whole family would be there, Patricia, Brenda, his brother Marcus, aunts and uncles I'd been pretending to like for 6 years. They'd all seen me as the problem, the insecure wife who didn't appreciate Colin's hard work. Tomorrow night, they'd see the truth. I spent the day preparing. I had the photos printed at a professional shop. I transferred all the evidence to a USB drive. And I bought a small gift box, the kind you'd use for jewelry. Inside, I placed the bracelet with its terrible engraving, nestled in tissue paper like a real gift. Sunday evening, I arrived at Patricia's house 30 minutes late. The party was already in full swing. Colin stood in the living room, surrounded by family, looking tired but trying to smile. When he saw me, his face went white. Emily, Patricia said coolly from the doorway. How nice of you to finally join us. I wouldn't miss Colin's birthday, I said sweetly. I was wearing a red dress and heels, my hair done, makeup perfect. I looked put together in a way I hadn't in months. Let them see me strong. Dinner was awkward. Colin barely spoke. I made small talk with his aunt about her garden and his cousin about her new job. I was pleasant, charming even. Patricia kept shooting me suspicious looks across the table, but I ignored her. After dessert, as Patricia was bringing out coffee, I stood up. Before we finish, I'd like to give Colin his birthday present. The room fell quiet. Colin's eyes met mine, pleading. I ignored him and pulled out the small gift box. This is something special, I said, walking around the table to place it in front of him. Something I found that I thought you'd appreciate. He didn't move to open it. Colin, open your gift, Patricia said, excited now. Don't be rude. With shaking hands, Colin opened the box. I watched his face as he saw the bracelet, the same one he'd hidden in his briefcase. The engraving caught the light. Patricia leaned over his shoulder. What does it say? She picked up the bracelet, squinting at the inscription. To my favorite secret? Colin, what is this? The room erupted. It's nothing, Colin stammered. It's a misunderstanding, is it? I interrupted. My voice was calm, but it cut through the noise like a knife. I pulled out my phone and connected it to Patricia's television, the same one she'd been planning to use for a birthday slideshow later. The screen lit up with the first photo, Colin and Vanessa at dinner. This is Vanessa Chen, I said conversationally. Colin's coworker. His mistress for the past 6 months. I clicked to the next image. The hotel receipt. This is the Hensley Hotel, room 407, where Colin has been spending our money every Thursday night. Another click. The text messages. Patricia sat down hard in her chair. Brenda's smirk had vanished. Colin's brother Marcus was staring at the screen, then at Colin, then back at the screen. Emily, stop this, Colin said, his voice rising. Not in front of everyone, why not? I asked. You weren't worried about our marriage in front of Vanessa. Why should I protect you in front of your family? Patricia recovered first, her face flushing red. This is ridiculous. Emily, you're clearly having some kind of breakdown. Colin would never what? I turned to face her. Would never lie to me? Would never sneak around behind my back? Or would never get caught? I clicked to the next slide, the security footage, frozen on a frame showing Colin and Vanessa entering the hotel room together. Patricia's mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. "You called me insecure," I said, my voice shaking now with anger. "You said I didn't appreciate him. That I should be grateful. Well, I'm grateful now. Grateful I found out before I wasted any more years on him." Brenda stood up. "Emily, I'm sure there's an explanation." "There is," I agreed. "Your brother is a liar and a cheater. That's the explanation." Colin stood up so fast his chair fell backward. "That's enough." His face was red, his hands clenched into fists. "You've made your point. You want a divorce? Fine. But you're not going to humiliate me like this." "You humiliated yourself," I said quietly. "I'm just making sure everyone sees it." Just then, my phone rang. The sound was loud in the silent room. I looked at the screen. Vanessa Chen. Perfect timing. I answered on speakerphone. "Hello? Colin?" Vanessa's voice came through, confused and breathy. "Did you get my text about Thursday? I booked room 407 again, our favorite." The silence in the room was deafening. I looked at Colin. His face had gone gray. "This is Emily," I said into the phone. "Colin's wife." The line went dead immediately. Patricia looked like she might faint. Marcus had his head in his hands. Brenda was staring at Colin like she'd never seen him before. "Get out," Patricia whispered. At first, I thought she was talking to me, but then I realized her eyes were on Colin. "Mother," Colin started. "Get out of my house." Her voice rose to a shout. "How dare you? How dare you do this to your wife, to this family? Get out." Colin looked around the room, but no one met his eyes. Not his brother, not his sister, not even the aunt who'd always doted on him. He grabbed his coat and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned to look at me one last time. "I hope you're happy now." "Not yet," I said. "But I will be." The door slammed behind him. I stood there in the silence, my heart pounding, feeling lighter than I had in months. Monday morning, I met with my lawyer, a sharp woman named Diane who'd been recommended by Nicole. I handed her the USB drive containing all my evidence. "How airtight is this?" she asked, scrolling through the files on her computer. "Completely," I said. "I have receipts, text messages, photos, security footage, and witnesses." Diane smiled, the kind of smile that probably terrified opposing counsel. "You've done my job for me, Emily. This is going to be the easiest case I've handled in years." She pulled up the divorce papers she'd drafted over the weekend. "Given the evidence of infidelity, you're entitled to a significant portion of marital assets. The house, savings, his retirement account. He'll fight it, but he won't win." "I don't want to fight," I said. "I just want out." "You'll get out," Diane assured me. "And you'll get everything you deserve in the process." That afternoon, Colin was served the divorce papers at his office. His lawyer called Diane immediately, trying to negotiate. Diane told me Colin wanted to settle quietly, avoid a lengthy court battle. "He's offering you the house and 60% of assets," Diane said. "That's generous, considering Georgia is an equitable distribution state, not community property." 75%, I countered. "And I wanted in writing that he admits to the affair. No irreconcilable differences language." Diane raised her eyebrows. "You sure? That admission could follow him." "I'm sure. If Colin wanted out quietly, he'd pay for it. And he'd do it with the truth." The settlement took 3 weeks to finalize. Colin agreed to everything: the house, 75% of our savings, his retirement account split in my favor. In exchange, I agreed not to pursue any claims against his business or future earnings. The admission of adultery was written into the decree. It would be public record, available for anyone who cared to look. Patricia called me once during those weeks. I never liked you, she said without preamble. But you didn't deserve what he did. It was the closest to an apology I'd ever get from her. Thank you, I said. For what it's worth, I never liked you either. She laughed, sharp and bitter. Fair enough. Take care of yourself, Emily. The call ended, and I knew I'd never hear from her again. Good. Colin moved into a one-bedroom apartment downtown. Through mutual friends, I heard he'd been let go from his company. Apparently, workplace affairs violated their ethics policy. Vanessa had been transferred to a different office. They weren't together anymore. Karma worked quickly sometimes. As for me, I started over. I sold the house, too many memories, too many ghosts, and bought a small condo closer to downtown. I started therapy, joined a gym, reconnected with friends I'd neglected during my marriage. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I drove past the Hensley Hotel. It was late afternoon, the sun casting long shadows across the building's facade. I'd avoided this area since that night in room 407, taking different routes to work, making detours to avoid the memories. But today, I'd decided it was time. I parked across the street and sat in my car, looking up at the windows. Room 407 was on the 4th floor, 3rd window from the left. The curtains were open, and I could see someone moving around inside. A different guest, a different story. The hotel held no power over me anymore. It was just a building, just a room. The betrayal had happened there, yes. But so had my awakening. That was the night I'd stopped being the woman who made excuses and became the woman who demanded truth. I thought about who I'd been a year ago, the Emily who worried about being paranoid, who believed her husband when he called her crazy, who tried so hard to be the perfect wife that she forgot to expect anything in return. I didn't miss her. I didn't want her back. That Emily had died in room 407. And I was grateful. I started my car and drove away from the Hensley Hotel without looking back. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. My phone buzzed with a text from Nicole asking if I wanted to grab dinner. I smiled and replied yes. 6 months ago, I'd stood in room 407 surrounded by evidence of my husband's betrayal. I'd been terrified, angry, and heartbroken. But I'd also been strong. I'd taken that pain and turned it into power. I'd refused to be a victim of someone else's choices. Colin had tried to destroy me quietly, secretly, in the shadows of hotel rooms and lies. Instead, he'd given me the push I needed to rebuild my life exactly as I wanted it. Room 407 used to be where my marriage ended. Now, driving through the city with the windows down and my favorite song playing, I realized something. It wasn't just where my marriage ended. It was where I began. The real me. The strong Maine. The me who would never again settle for less than I deserved. And that woman? She was going to be just fine.